You owe this family. My mother said it like she was asking me to pass the salt. For words that summarized 19 years of being treated like a tenant in my own home while my brother was treated like a prince in his. What kind of parents charge their teenage daughter rent while their adult son lives expense-free for 35 years? Mine. That's who. I was 16 when they handed me the first invoice. Not a request. An invoice. Printed on official-looking paper with my name at the top and a breakdown of costs, $500 for rent, $200 for utilities, $100 for household maintenance. $800 a month to sleep in the same bedroom I had since I was 3 years old. This is how the real world works, Cassandra, my father had said, not looking up from his newspaper. You need to learn responsibility. You need to understand that nothing in life is free. My brother Kevin was 22 at the time. Living in the basement. No job. No invoice. No expectations. Kevin is different, my mother explained when I asked. He's sensitive. He needs time to find himself. Boys mature slower than girls. So I worked 3 jobs while finishing high school. I bagged groceries at Savamart from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays. I waited tables at a diner on Saturday mornings. I cleaned houses on Sundays. I handed over $800 every month like clockwork, and I watched my parents deposit it into an account they called the Family Fund. I found out later that the Family Fund paid for Kevin's gaming setup, his car, his trips to Comic-Con, his various business ventures that never amounted to anything. I was funding my brother's perpetual adolescence with money I earned scrubbing other people's toilets. The day I turned 18, I left. I had exactly $2,400 saved, 3 months of rent that I'd hidden from them by lying about my hours. I moved into a studio apartment the size of a closet, enrolled in community college, and started working my way through school. My parents didn't call for 6 months. When they finally did, it wasn't to check on me. It was to ask if I could lend Kevin money for a car repair. His car. The one my rent payments had bought him. I said no. They didn't call again for 2 years. By then, I'd transferred to State University on a full scholarship. I was double majoring in finance and computer science. I was interning at a hedge fund during summers. I was building the life they told me I wasn't smart enough to have. You always were the difficult one, my mother said when she finally reached out. Too independent. Too stubborn. You never let us help you. Help. That's what she called it. Charging me rent at 16. Taking my money for Kevin. Telling me I'd never amount to anything every time I didn't meet their expectations. I graduated summa cum laude. I got a job at Goldman Sachs. I worked 100-hour weeks, saved every penny, and invested everything I had into the market I'd learned to read like a book. By 28, I'd made my first million. By 30, I'd made my 10th. By 32, I'd left Goldman to start my own investment firm. I had 40 employees, offices in 3 cities, and a client list that included some of the wealthiest families in America. My parents knew none of this. I'd changed my last name when I turned 21. Legally. Permanently. I wasn't Cassandra Morrison anymore. I was Cassandra Blake. The difficult daughter who disappeared had become someone entirely new. And then, 3 weeks ago, they found me. I don't know how. Maybe Kevin finally learned to use Google. Maybe a distant relative saw my picture in a business magazine. It didn't matter. What mattered was the voicemail my mother left at my office. Cassandra, it's your mother. We know you've done well for yourself. Kevin has a business opportunity, and we think it's time you gave back to this family. After everything we did for you, it's the least you can do. Call us. After everything they did for me. I listened to that voicemail 14 times. Each time, I felt the same cold fury I'd felt at 16, standing in my childhood bedroom, holding an invoice for the privilege of existing in their house. I called them back. Cassandra. My mother sounded genuinely pleased. I knew you'd come around. Family is family, after all. Tell me about Kevin's business idea, I said, keeping my voice neutral. It's brilliant, honestly. He wants to open a gaming cafe. You know, where people pay to play video games. He's been researching it for years. Years. My brother had been researching a business idea while living rent-free in our parents' house for 19 years. Meanwhile, I'd built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing. How much does he need? I asked. $250,000. For the initial setup. But it's a sure thing, Cassandra. Kevin has it all figured out. Location, equipment, everything. He just needs the capital. And you want me to provide it? You owe this family, she said. And there it was again. That phrase. That audacity. We raised you. We fed you. We gave you a roof over your head. You charged me for that roof, I said quietly. $800 a month, starting at 16. That was to teach you responsibility. And look how well it worked. You're successful now. You should be thanking us. I let the silence stretch for a long moment. I'll invest, I said finally. But I want to meet with Kevin first. See his business plan. Do my due diligence. Of course, of course. My mother was practically giddy. Come for dinner on Sunday. We'll make it a family reunion. A family reunion. 16 years since I'd set foot in that house. 16 years since I'd seen the basement where Kevin had spent his entire adult life. 16 years of building a life they knew nothing about. I said I'd be there. But first, I had some research of my own to do. I hired a private investigator. Not because I needed one, I had a pretty good idea what he'd find, but because I wanted documentation. I wanted receipts. The report came back 3 days later. My parents' house, the same house where I'd paid $800 a month as a teenager, was mortgaged to the hilt. 3 separate loans totaling $340,000. They'd taken out money against their equity to fund Kevin's various ventures over the years. A restaurant that failed in 6 months. A food truck that got repossessed. A cryptocurrency investment that turned out to be a scam. They were 6 months behind on payments. Foreclosure proceedings had already begun. Kevin, meanwhile, had exactly $247 in his bank account. He'd never held a job for more than 4 months. He'd never paid a single bill. He'd spent the last 19 years playing video games in the basement while our parents went into debt trying to launch his career. The gaming cafe wasn't a business plan. It was a last-ditch effort to get me to bail them all out. I arrived at my parents' house on Sunday in my Porsche. Not because I needed to show off, but because I wanted them to see. I wanted them to understand exactly what they'd thrown away when they treated me like a burden instead of a daughter. My mother opened the door, and her eyes went straight to the car. Then to my clothes, a simple Armani blazer, but she recognized quality when she saw it. Then to my face, trying to find the tired, overworked teenager she remembered. Cassandra, she breathed. You look different. 16 years will do that, I said, stepping past her into the house. It was smaller than I remembered. Shabbier. The furniture was the same, but worn now, sagging in places. The carpet was stained. The walls needed painting. All those years of investing in Kevin instead of their home had taken their toll. My father sat in his usual chair, watching a football game. He looked up when I entered, and I saw the same calculation in his eyes that I'd seen in my mother's. How much is she worth? How much can we get? Cassandra, he said, not getting up. You came. Where's Kevin? Basement. My mother waved her hand. He's putting the final touches on his presentation. He's been working so hard on this, Cassandra. You'll be impressed. I doubted that very much. Kevin emerged 10 minutes later, wearing wrinkled khakis and a polo shirt that was too small for his expanded waistline. He was carrying a laptop and a confident smile that faltered slightly when he saw me. Cassie, he said, using the nickname I'd always hated. Wow. You look expensive. Show me the business plan, Kevin. He set up his laptop on the kitchen table. The presentation was exactly what I expected: clip art, vague projections, no market research, no competitive analysis, no understanding of commercial lease terms or equipment costs or staffing requirements. It was a fantasy dressed up in PowerPoint. So as you can see, Kevin concluded, the gaming cafe market is exploding. We could be profitable within the first year, easy. All I need is $250,000 to get started. $250,000, I repeated. And you've never run a business before. I've had some ventures that didn't pan out, he admitted. But this is different. This is my passion. Your passion. I nodded slowly. Kevin, do you know what I do for a living? He shrugged. Mom said you work in finance or something. I run a private equity firm. I evaluate businesses for a living. I've invested in over 50 companies in the last decade. I've turned failing enterprises into industry leaders. I've also watched businesses just like the one you're proposing fail within months. Kevin's smile faded slightly. So you're saying no? I'm saying I'll invest. But not in your gaming cafe. My mother stepped forward, her face lighting up. You will? Oh, Cassandra, I knew you'd come through for us. Blood is thicker than water, after all. How much? Will you cover the whole? I said I'm not investing in Kevin's cafe. I pulled a folder from my bag and set it on the table. I'm investing in something else. Something that actually has value. I opened the folder and spread the documents across the table. This is a purchase agreement for your mortgage. All 3 of them. I bought your debt from the bank yesterday. Total principal, $340,000. I paid it in full. My father sat up straight for the first time since I'd arrived. You, what? I own your house now. I let that sink in. Well, technically, my company owns it. Morrison Holdings LLC. I named it after you. Thought it was fitting. My mother's face had gone white. Cassandra, what are you saying? I'm saying that the house you charged me $800 a month to live in when I was 16? It's mine now. The basement where Kevin has lived rent-free for 19 years? Also mine. Kevin grabbed the documents, scanning them frantically. This can't be legal. You can't just buy someone's mortgage without their permission. Actually, I can. When a mortgage is in default, the bank can sell the debt to any qualified buyer. I'm a very qualified buyer, Kevin. I've done this dozens of times. You're going to throw us out? My mother's voice was shaking. Your own parents? After everything we did for you. Everything you did for me. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let's talk about that, Mom. Let's talk about what you actually did. I pulled out another document. A spreadsheet I'd put together myself, going back 17 years. From age 16 to 18, I paid you a total of $19,200 in rent. That money went into your family fund, which you used to buy Kevin a car, pay for his trips, and fund his first failed business venture. I flipped to the next page. Over the past 19 years, you've spent an estimated $487,000 supporting Kevin. His living expenses, his failed businesses, his debts. You refinanced your house 3 times to give him money. You took out credit cards in your own names to fund his ventures. My father was staring at the spreadsheet like he'd never seen the numbers laid out so clearly before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd never wanted to. Meanwhile, I continued, you never once called to see if I was okay. You never visited my apartment. You never came to my college graduation. You never asked about my business. The only time you've reached out in 16 years is when you wanted money for Kevin. That's not true, my mother protested weakly. We thought about you. We talked about you. You talked about how I was difficult. How I was too independent. How I never appreciated what you did for me. I kept my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. I know because Aunt Linda told me. Every time you saw her, you complained about your ungrateful daughter who ran away at 18. Aunt Linda had no right. Aunt Linda was the only person in this family who ever treated me like I mattered. I cut her off. She came to my graduation. She invested in my first company. She celebrated every milestone you ignored. She passed away 2 years ago, and she left me a letter explaining exactly what you said about me behind my back. I pulled out the letter. Handwritten. 3 pages of Aunt Linda's elegant script, documenting every cruel thing my parents had ever said about me. She never finished high school. She'll come crawling back. She thinks she's better than us. I read aloud. Those are direct quotes, Mom. From you? My mother's face crumbled. For the first time in my life, I saw something that looked like genuine shame in her eyes. For the record, I added, I did finish high school. Valedictorian, actually. But you wouldn't know that because you didn't come to the ceremony. Kevin slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. So what if they made some mistakes? They're your parents. You can't just take their house because your feelings are hurt. I turned to face my brother. The golden child. The sensitive one. The one who needed time to find himself. Kevin, you've never paid rent in your life. You've never held a job for more than 4 months. You've cost this family nearly $500,000 in failed businesses and living expenses. And now you're 35 years old with $247 in your bank account, asking your estranged sister for $250,000. How do you know what's in my? Because I do this for a living. I gathered the documents back into my folder. I know everything about this family's finances. I know about the credit card debt. I know about the missed car payments. I know about the liens. I know you're about to lose everything, and I know you thought I would swoop in and save you. And you won't? My father's voice was quiet. Defeated. I already did. I set a new document on the table. I paid off your mortgage. Your debt is gone. The house is no longer in foreclosure. My mother blinked. Then, we can stay? You can stay. I pointed to the document. This is a lease agreement. You'll pay rent of $800 a month. The same amount you charged me at 16. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The lease is in your names, I continued. Both of you. Kevin is not on it. Kevin's face went red. What does that mean? It means you have 30 days to find your own place to live. I stood up. Consider it a learning experience. It's how the real world works, after all. You need to learn responsibility. You need to understand that nothing in life is free. I watched recognition flicker across his face as he heard his own father's words thrown back at him. You can't do this, he sputtered. Mom, Dad, tell her she can't do this. But my parents were silent. They were looking at the lease agreement, at the numbers, at the reality of their situation finally laid bare. There's one more thing. I set the final document on the table. This is a trust fund. I've put $200,000 into it. It's for your retirement, Mom and Dad. You can access it when you turn 65, that's 3 years from now. It's invested conservatively and should provide a comfortable supplement to Social Security. My mother looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Why would you do that? After everything? Because I'm not you. I picked up my bag. I don't punish people for things they can't control. I don't treat my family like tenants. And I don't abandon people, even when they've abandoned me. I walked to the door, then paused. The rent money you collect will go into a maintenance fund for the house. It's old. It needs work. If you take care of it, maybe someday I'll sell it back to you for what I paid. If you don't. I shrugged. I have plenty of other properties. I opened the door. Cassandra, wait. My father's voice stopped me. He'd stood up, something he hadn't done when I arrived. I'm sorry. I turned to look at him. The man who'd handed me an invoice at 16. Who'd called me difficult. Who'd never once asked about my life. I know you are, Dad. I said. You're sorry because you need something. The question is whether you'll still be sorry when you don't. I walked out to my car without looking back. As I drove away, I thought about the 16-year-old girl who'd stood in that house, holding an invoice for her own existence. The girl who'd worked 3 jobs to pay for the privilege of being someone's daughter. The girl who'd left with nothing and built everything. I thought about Kevin, 35 years old, finally being told that the gravy train was over. I thought about my parents, who would now pay rent to the daughter they'd treated like a burden. And I thought about Aunt Linda, who'd seen me when no one else had. Who'd believed in me when my own parents wouldn't. I'd named my company after her. Blake Investments. Her maiden name. They'd asked me to invest in Kevin's business. And I had invested. Just not in the way they expected. I'd invested in justice. In accountability. In the lesson they should have taught both their children, instead of just the one they didn't want. Nothing in life is free. And some debts take decades to collect.